you believe it's 2 weeks since I did a garden tour, so I thought I'd do an update. Quite a lot has changed in the last couple of weeks. It's early on a Sunday morning here. There's not a cloud in the sky, hence dressed down. Definitely feeling the effects of not going to the gym for 3 weeks. Yeah, definitely need to work on that over the coming weeks. Anyway, I think we have a couple of helpers. Yep, Stanley's behind here, Gatsby's somewhere, bird watching. So join me and let's just see what has changed. Now, my husband was at the kitchen sink one day doing the washing up, and he noticed that there were birds flying in and out of our arch, our rose arch. So there are definitely some nests in here somewhere. I think the cats have given up trying to jump from this corner in to get them. Fingers crossed that they have. Rhubarb doesn't seem to be doing much at the moment. I'm wondering whether, because we've had such great weather this spring, that I am lulled into a false sense of it being later in the season than it is. But I'm hoping that's going to do something in the next few months. Really excited. I went to the supermarket on Thursday to pick a couple of things up. Noticed that they had some lavender, which you'll see in a minute, that I've planted. I've been waiting for ages for lavender. And I went back yesterday to get some more lavender plants because I wiped them out on Thursday. They didn't have any lavender, but they did have some tomatoes, so I picked them up because you may remember in my last update that I said I thought that I put my tomato plants had shriveled up on the table at the end of the garden because I'd left them out in the frost. So I've got some replacements. So we'll pretend that I planted these. Coming on through, we haven't got the scented arch yet. It will scent at some point. I know it will. Now you can see the first of the lavender plants that I bought, that I've planted in here. Now I think they like full sun. This end of this patch doesn't get full sun all day. So we'll see how they get on. Hopefully they'll be okay. I have moved a couple of plants around since 2 weeks ago. So there was a bush that was in the corner over there, and I've moved it here. And what's really interesting is that I moved this about a week ago, and already there are shoots of growth on it. And it only gets a little bit of extra sun during the day. In the afternoon, the late sun comes in from behind. But it obviously likes just having that little burst of sunshine at the end of the day. Raspberry plants are coming on nicely. This side generally does not so well as the other side because we have this olive tree, our neighbour's olive tree, which blocks out the sun. Whereas the raspberry plants on the other side of the garden are doing much, much better because they get the afternoon sun. The alliums have come out. They were about to burst, I think, when I did the last update. Again, this area doesn't get a huge amount of sun all day, so they've been a little bit later in bursting than the alliums further down, but really, really pleased with how that looks. I planted now I can't remember whether these are broccoli, cauliflower, or Brussels sprouts, can't remember. I've planted one with a bunt tin to stop the snails, one I've left to the elements. Seems to be, touch wood, doing okay. I'm going to be popping my tomato plants, a couple in here and a couple in the other bed later today. I bought a couple of shrubs here. I know them as magic carpets, which will bush out nicely, which made me then realise that I'd already got one. A very big one. They're exactly the same flower. And again, since I last recorded an update, these have flowered beautifully. The bees are loving it. Really, really loving it. So that's all good. The birds are enjoying their food. They got plenty of feeding places around the garden. I'm having to restrict it to feeding them every other day. Otherwise, they would literally get through a 12-kilo bag of bird seed a week. In fact, this morning I saw a bird and it seemed to be looking at me waiting, going, come on, where's breakfast? And I had to tell it, no, I can't, not every day, because it would cost an absolute fortune. Here's another plant that I moved. a Hebe. I moved it from where that other one was that I just showed you. And again, even just in a matter of about a week, it seems to be enjoying its new position with a bit more sun, because it's already starting to flower. So I'm hoping that that'll bush out quite nicely. Sunflowers are doing well, coming on nicely, as is this, but don't ask me what it is. I know it comes off with little purple flowers on it, again good for the bees. And here are some lilies, some scented lilies that I got, 3 plants which will bush out nicely. I do like lilies. I had lilies in my wedding bouquet, so looking forward to that bushing out here. More lavender. I do love my lavender, so there'll be a bit of a scented pathway down here when they get established. Probably take a year or 2 to get established, but at least they're in. As predicted, my beautiful white bush here. I think I will cut it back at the end of the season to give it a better shape, but some beautiful flowers have come on that now. The lavender, different type of lavender, is coming up beautifully. So again, probably in the next 2 to 4 weeks, that will get the purple heads on them, taking over from the allium, which has just started to go over. What else have we got? Buddleia is coming on quite nicely, starting to get some of the heads on them. What else? The Hebe, as expected, it's starting to get a few flowers on it. Not masses, it never does. It doesn't ever completely flower, but again, the bees enjoy what does come. We may get some more on that. I think this is a lilac. This has gone over now, so this will just become nice and green and bush out. This plant, and I can't remember what it's called, this is starting to get the first heads. These will come quite high up here. Again, the birds, the bees particularly enjoy that. So that plant kind of takes over from the lilac plant here. Ace is doing quite well. Look at the alliums. So the different style of alliums, I call these the spiky ones, not the technical term. No idea what the technical term is, but these are particularly nice, lining the pathway. We've got our sun sail shade up because we need to protect the pond, otherwise the fish would fry and cook a little bit much. Coming on down, the grapevine is really starting to take off, getting plenty of growth on that. Hello Gatsby. We've got quite a few, these are weeds, I didn't plant these, and I've left them because I'm conscious that the frogs are trying to get from underneath the decking here, because all of the decking here has a big space underneath precisely for wildlife. I kept the sides open so that wildlife can get under and shelter during the winter. So the frogs tend to come out of underneath the decking and into the pond in the spring, safe from the cats. And I've left these weeds because it provides some shelter and some protection for the frogs, maybe the newts, whatever else is living under there, to get safely to the pond. I may pull them up soon because they're getting a little bit out of hand. I'm tempted to see what happens, what flower they do get, but otherwise we would see the rocks and the moss that is behind there. But it's not too offensive at the moment. My father-in-law's tree, the blossom has gone over. It was spectacular while it was here. So again, this will now concentrate on just growing, which it is doing quite well. This is a type of tree that tends to look quite messy rather than uniform. But we have to keep cutting to make sure that we can still get past it. Otherwise, we'd have branches in our way. What else? This is doing particularly well. I am going to move this at the end of the season because it's blocking the view from the decking to the pond. So I will move this to a better spot. Not quite sure where yet. but it will move on. I have thrown some seeds into this patch here. I got some free seeds with my gardening magazine, so I mixed them together, put them on there, raked them over, watered them. No idea what will come up, but we will see what, if anything, takes. The hedge behind the pond, my husband is going to be cutting that today so that it's nice and tidy and gets a bit thicker, so the birds can use it a bit more. He's also going to be getting the waterfall going because that seems to have stopped working. Having turned it off so that the tadpoles didn't get caught up in it, when I tried to turn it on the other day, it wasn't doing anything, so there's clearly a blockage somewhere that he's going to have a look at. And then finally, coming down here, we've got the magnolia. It's interesting, the magnolia, because it does tend to try and flower. Although it normally flowers at the beginning of spring, it tends to try and flower a couple of times during the summer as well, which leads to a little bit of colour. But I do love these waxy leaves. They are really, really beautiful. A few more alliums, and then our mint for our mint infusion. Oh, can't beat that smell. So they are doing well with the full sun. What's quite interesting in this pot is that I've got my mini rhododendron, but I obviously didn't get all of the potato seed out when I planted it, because there's potato coming up through it. Because I used to grow potatoes in this pot. I thought I had replaced all of the compost, but clearly not. So yeah, I'm going to have to sort that out today. More weeds, more weeds. So today is a gardening day, and I'm going to be doing quite a lot of weeding. Although really it's not as bad as it could be. So I'm going to quite enjoy, and it will probably only take me about half an hour to do, and then it's all up to date. Great, so that's where the garden is at the moment as we start. Tomorrow is the 1st of June, so at the beginning of summer. And we'll see what's happening in a couple of weeks' time when I'll do another garden update. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely weekend, and I shall see you very soon. Take care.